Welcome to the A.R. Bernard Show. I'm your host, A.R. Bernard. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Leon Lacy. Leon has had a distinguished career as an orchestra arranger, film composer, and music producer. He's worked with musical greats like Beyonce, Smokey Robinson, Janet Jackson, Mary J. Blige, Karen Clark Sheard, and many more. He's also worked on Marvel, The Shy, and Whitney Houston's biopic, I Want to Dance with Somebody. Please welcome today's talented and accomplished guest, Mr. Leon Lacy.
Thank you.
Leon, welcome.
I feel so welcome.
So let's start with all that you're doing. Where did it begin? How did you know that you had the gift that you had? You play several instruments, you compose, you produce. I mean, there's nothing that you don't cover.
Wow.
Did it hit you sometime in childhood?
Yeah, absolutely childhood. You know, just being in church. I remember just being one of those kids that would just gaze at the drummer the entire service. And I couldn't wait to go back to church just because I wanted to be near the instruments. And from all my baby pictures, you know, I'm on the drums with the drumsticks from 2 years old to 3, and then it evolved to the piano about 4 or 5. And I would take a little keyboard to school with me, and I would practice songs off the radio by ear. So yeah, it's been with me all my life.
So you began just replicating what you were hearing.
That's
now
right.
You said in church.
Yeah.
Are those your roots?
That's my roots. I'm
Was
so
it your
blessed.
Mom and dad dragged you to church?
Oh,
or?
no, they might have dragged my other siblings, but not me.
You went voluntarily.
I went voluntarily. I was ready to go.
That attracted
it was the
you?
music, the choir. It was the preacher's a little scary, but
and this is the black church.
This is the black church in Queens. Very
Okay.
small church, but an amazing musical background type of church too. So very fortunate, very blessed.
So did you start playing there? And
Yeah.
at what age did you officially play?
Yeah, you know what? But how do I say this nicely? The children weren't allowed to really play for the real services, but I had a talent to actually play. So my mom, she was like she was the greatest guardian because she would try to stand up for me, try to get them to allow me to play, at least for the kids services. So about 7 to 8 years old, I was tinkering away, but they allowed me to go to my cousin's church in Long Island, and that's where I really was able to develop my gift.
You got a chance to express your gift. What is it? What is it about music that you like so much?
Wow, you know what? It's a very vulnerable art form, you know. And at that age, I was also writing songs, about 7, 8, 9, and I was so shy to let anybody hear what I was doing. Nobody knew that I was writing.
A vulnerable art form. Explain that.
Yeah.
Unpack that.
I say that because you really have to understand you're doing something that means something to you so much, and other people could laugh at it. And now you have to ask yourself, do you want to keep doing this? And in my case, when I asked myself that question, even at that age, it was like, absolutely. I can't imagine not getting on the piano and writing songs about a cat or a dog.
So wait.
I don't want nobody to hear, though.
So it's vulnerable because you open yourself up to criticism.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Of your creativity, your art form.
Wow.
But you didn't know that when you were a kid.
It's crazy.
When did you come to that realization that you call it now?
Wow.
The vulnerability.
You know what's crazy? I never said this before. So me just saying it now, I'm like, wait up. That's how I still feel today. Even writing the big film scores.
Later.
Yeah, I don't know. I really have to give God the credit because some children have different upbringing, and there was just like this level of accountability that was over me. You know, I got to a certain age, for example, you know, like little kids, they'll be saying bad words on the playground. I'll never forget being on a playground about 12 years old, and I thought I saw my dad driving around the block, and I'm shooting basketballs, and all my friends are swearing and saying bad words. And at that very moment, I promised I would never say another bad word. Because
you didn't want to get caught. You didn't know. You didn't know if your dad was in the vicinity.
I would have to be phony, you know. And it's like, no, I'm accountable. So that has to be God's spirit, man.
But rejection.
Mm-hmm.
What was your first rejection?
Yeah, at
and
church.
How did that impact you?
Yeah, I would sit on that organ and I would cry because they only let me be up there because my mom had to fight for me, but there were other people who didn't want me to be up there. So yeah, that was
What do you mean?
a tough.
They were jealous of you, or was it doctrinal that you had to be a certain age, or was it human competition?
I would say it might have been a little bit of human competition with a little bit of. I have to still put my ideas on this because I'm not really sure.
This is the first time you're thinking about
this. First time. But it really shaped me actually, so I need to spend more time thinking about it. The roles between adults and children, because there are some children, they deserve spanking all day long. And then there are some children who deserve to be pushed and celebrated and mentored. And I know, I'm so fortunate and blessed to have a child now. I know, as soon as I see a gift in him, I'm going to do like my mom, but to the next power,
So it changed how you're going to relate to your children. It
Yes.
usually does that. Either you end up following in the footsteps of your parents, mimicking the same thing that you saw and experienced, or you reflect on it and how it impacted you, and you do something different.
Right.
You think your child, a son, is going to have...
He's a pastor.
Are the signs already there?
The signs are already there.
Really? How old is he?
He's 18 months. He'll be 2 in November.
You can tell he's a composer and musician?
I can tell. You know why? Before he came out the stomach, I purposely would have my wife in some of my... I study every morning, so I will let her be in the room while I'm studying composers and reading scores, and you hear the music. So when he came out, even now, if there's a song, it's by Gustav Holst. It's called the Planets, and it's a very popular score. John Williams, Hans Zimmer, all these big composers have studied this piece of music. So when my son hears the Mars section, he just starts conducting automatically.
Really?
Oh yeah, he just stops. And he's been doing that before he can walk.
Now, I've heard that what a woman is exposed to while she is carrying a child actually shapes and influences.
I heard that too.
The child.
Yeah.
Especially if she is not emotionally stable, or there's a lot of strife or stress that affects the baby. If she's happy and in a good place throughout the pregnancy, that affects the baby. So here's music already affecting.
Already.
So did you intend to shape and influence him while he was still in the womb?
Some people don't want to push their children, but I feel like that I love the scripture. The youth are like arrows in the hands of soldiers, right? Warriors. And so even if he doesn't want to be a musician in life, I want him to know the family business. I want him to know how to read music, appreciate music. And so these are my years to make sure.
You already look proud already.
Oh, I'm proud.
You got a proud look, like
I'm ready.
My kid's going to do what I do. In fact, do better.
Hell yeah,
right?
do better. That's right.
So in the introduction, I went through some big names that you work with.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did that door open?
Yeah, I know you're a pastor, but I don't mean to keep being spiritual. But
this is a regular conversation.
I know, but it's real though.
That's what I want.
It's
I want
very
reality.
real because I used to hear these scriptures.
But look,
your gift will make room for you.
There is not this dichotomy. Spirituality and the spiritual and the natural work together.
Right.
Spiritual are those things that we really can't measure. Those things inside of us. Those things that are transcendent and elevate us.
That's
right.
So
because
true.
music does that. Music is the vehicle through which you minister.
That's
spiritual. Right.
That's
okay.
right.
So now we got that straight.
Right.
Now, tell me the truth.
Yeah, no, that's the truth, man. Like to hear that scripture, your gift will make room for you. Like I used to hear it, I used to despise it when I was younger, but now it's so true. Once you do one job for one client, and you do a great job, it just opens up more doors.
So what was that first job? What was that door opener?
Wow, these are good questions, man. Wow. I went on tour. I did a world tour when I was about 18, right out of high school. And I think that tour, I was able to tell myself I can do this, I can operate. Then I came back, went to college and stuff. So I think that tour was...
That's interesting because you believed you had a gift, You loved it. You desired the opportunity to express it.
Mm-hmm.
It was somewhat hindered from full expression.
Right.
Now you get this opportunity at 18,
Right.
but you still have to prove to yourself what? That you could do it, or
Yeah.
that it can take you somewhere.
Yeah.
So you believed in it, but you weren't sure you could do it.
Yeah. Absolutely. But it's other things that come outside of music too. Like, you know, when you're on the road, there's a lot of things that can happen, good and bad.
So you grew up a church boy.
I grew up a church boy, so that's a big part
Put it in
of
perspective. I got it.
But I know a lot of my good friends are church boys that
That's
they ain't thinking about that.
We're not saying that's where they are or ended up, but that's where you started.
I might have been more dorky, so.
So all right, so you had a set of moral values, you had a moral compass,
Right.
ethics that you were exposed to,
Right.
and all of a sudden you're in this new
Right.
environment.
That's right.
That has some quite talented people, but now there are moral challenges.
That's right.
Ethical challenges. Was that the biggest thing?
That was the biggest thing.
Why?
Because I saw like night and day. You got these set of people, and you got this set of people. What type of people you gonna be? Very talented and a very short lifespan because of behavior issues, the lifestyle.
Okay, the lifestyle.
And then you got the other who is not really celebrated. They don't get the calls. They don't get the jobs because they're not rock stars in that, so to speak.
So wait, you're saying that in order for you to be successful in the industry, you had to participate in things?
You got to mingle. You got to go to the after parties. You got to... I'm being real. Now, that's the real part. You got to...
okay, I'm going to be your priest
and it's
today,
sad, though.
and you're in confession booth
right there
now.
you go, yeah.
So...
I'm not proud. That's
had
the
to
culture.
mingle.
Yeah.
What did you mean? What do you mean by that?
I didn't say me. I said you would have to.
Oh, okay. You're making sure
Right,
you're
exactly.
covered. Okay. Because mom and dad may see this podcast.
Exactly. I might have went to a few parties here and there, but I mean, I lost a lot of good friends, man. Like even last year, I'm still losing talented musicians that have lost the battle to drugs, to all kind of situations.
So there was an environment that was quite challenging for you.
Yeah, it's still out there.
Did it shock you? Did it surprise you when you saw it?
Yeah, it did.
Why?
You know, because in certain line of music, you wouldn't think you would see certain things. You know, you got hip hop, you got R&B, you got gospel, you got reggae. When you get to gospel music, you wouldn't think you would see certain things.
What do you mean?
So we can't go too deep into this, Pastor.
some holy people, right?
Yeah, who are still struggling with things.
So you had people in the gospel industry.
Oh yeah.
And they were not living a lifestyle consistent with their music,
right,
their words. How did that affect you?
Great question, man. When I was younger, I literally all I wanted to do was make Christian music. Mm-hmm. And I knew there was a lot of, I purposely didn't want to study hip hop. I purposely wanted to study jazz. I just wanted to write songs about the kingdom, like beautiful gospel songs. Not really shouting songs, not like that. Today's equivalent of CCM songs I would like.
Okay.
You know, that type of songs. And so when I got a chance to get to a certain level, I was signed to Columbia Records. So when I got a chance to get to certain levels and I did certain shows and platforms, I was like, oh man, I'm in the trick bag right now. So I got to fast forward. Like I see my life 20 years from now, even in that industry, and I had to pray. I had to figure something else out.
But these are secular artists that I mentioned.
Yeah,
you work with Beyonce.
Right.
You work with Smokey Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had the opportunity to interact with Smokey on several occasions.
Nice.
And he even claimed a Christian, foundation. But you found an incongruency between the lifestyle that was being lived and the genre of music that was being communicated. But so you had to come to a decision in order to continue.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Where did you land on that? What did you decide about that incongruency?
Wow. I really, and I'm still understanding this today, that it's not about how hard somebody preaches or shows the world how they're going after God and they want everybody else to know God. It's really about their character within themselves and their relationship with God for themselves. So even if they're not a preacher, I've seen hip hop artists or jazz artists or classical artists who are even more centered than a lot of my great Christian friends and artist friends, you know. And I had to at that moment just humble my thoughts of what I thought the path was, and realize, okay, now as I get older, I need to find a way to, okay, take some jobs. Some of the names that you've said, I'm fortunate. I don't have to mingle and hang out, and I'm able to work for these great people and get right back to my wife and my son. You know, and I don't have to do this song and dance to try to get people to come to God. I just try to hope that my life in some way will water somebody else's faith in some kind of way.
But isn't that because you have established a reputation?
Yeah.
I mean, when you're good at what you do,
yeah,
you know, you're less likely to have to conform to
right.
a context or an environment
Yeah.
in order to be accepted and
That's right.
continue getting work. But you had to get there.
That's right, man. Mr. T, as I was walking down the block, I was saying, I think it was God's Spirit talking. He was like, you know, who's your greatest partner? And the word T came up, Mr. T. Mr. T, time. Because I'm getting older, you know, and God is like, to my spirit, stay healthy, keep a good name, keep growing, keep studying, and just let time keep going. Everything is worked out. So
let's put aside for a moment gospel music. You went into secular music.
Right.
What was that transition like?
Oh man, as a composer, great, because I'm not touring, and I don't feel nothing bad about me touring, but I choose a more stable life, and I do understand how doing other music can really expose you a little bit more to things you might not be mature enough for. So I don't know if I'm mature enough to be around a lot of things, you know, but I do know I'm grateful when I get a chance to compose for artists or do a film score, because I'm doing it in luxury in my own home, my own studio. It's quick turnarounds, great pay, amazing pay, and yeah, and I'm cool.
Leon, you said it's much easier being a music producer than being a film composer. Why? What's the difference?
Wow. Well, being a film composer, you really have much more elements to pull from, much more research, I feel, to pull from. As a producer, you do have a lot of elements, but a producer is usually confined to the voice, the musical arrangement, and putting those things together. As a film composer, you really have that plus a plethora of other resources.
So you find it's a lot less work. You can focus more on the creativity.
Absolutely.
Okay. So walk us through the creative process.
Okay.
As a composer.
Okay. Well, my creative process is to study.
Is it different for everyone?
Probably, but almost the same. But I think it's tailored to the individual and what their expectations are.
So what's your creative process?
Okay. My creative process, I like to think about the late, great Mr. Kobe Bryant. He represents most of the athletes who are seriously driven, and they have to put their mind and body through great tasks to achieve their goal. So, for example, them waking up early before the sun is up, I've adapted that. And I'm sure you do too in your line. To of course, I start my day with prayer, but then I go right into study. I spend at least 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours of just studying. So by the time noon comes, then I'm able to work and go to the gym or spend time with family. But I have a real strict regimen of studying the great artists that came before me, such as the artists from the 1700s, 1800s, the people who Quincy Jones has studied, and the people who Miles Davis studied. And as a film composer, it's a great way for me to grow older, because you can't learn everything, not even in his lifetime, to see how they use the music from the classical, from other countries, other cultures, and then they decided, they're gonna put together a string quartet or a horn section or vocals to sound like this. So I'm just still psyched about the studying aspect.
1700s?
Yes.
1800s?
Yes. Yes.
What
Amazing
music
time.
are we drawing from? There was no hip hop back
Yeah,
then.
no, not at all. We're talking about Baroque, the Western, the European music, Baroque at the time. Even though there is some like African music, you can study from that time too. But to look at the literature that we have documented from the books is just amazing. To go beyond Bach, and then after Bach, it's just timeless to be able to
It's
study this
beautiful
stuff.
how you can pull from these individuals and bring them into today,
That's right.
in today's music scene and music environment. Music has come a long way. The diversity is incredible. Let's talk about the pressures of doing what you do when it comes to mental health. That's a big issue in our society.
Wow.
And millennials have wonderfully removed much of the stigma associated with mental health. I was in Washington, D.C. for the White House, Health and Human Services, and we did a special panel discussion on mental health as it impacts specifically African American males. And why? Because, Black men are taught you got to be strong, you got to be tough, you can't show weakness. And that's not just unique to Black men.
Right.
I speak to a lot of friends of mine who are Irish or German or Italian, and it's this thing about manhood
Right.
that transcends race or color. Unique to the Black experience because of the history here in America. So the Black community is used to having to wear a mask
Correct.
when it comes to these kind of emotional issues in order to be strong. Is it okay to get help? Is it okay to find a therapist? To even say that you have a therapist?
Right.
Or is it still taboo?
I think it's getting more acceptable.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What makes you think that?
I just think with I'm not sure if social media had a part in it, but I believe that people are looking at themselves more, and while you have the vegans and the people who are not eating certain things or wearing things, they're being more self-conscious, and first it starts outward and then it goes inward. And I believe most people, especially people of value, whether they achieve it or not, I think that they're curious.
Well, that's another show. You just made vegan a spirituality. We got to have that separate conversation. Let's talk about Black Tie Symphony.
Oh,
you and
yes.
I had the opportunity to do something at King's Theater.
King's Theater last year
In Brooklyn.
Yes, sir.
It was amazing. And the whole concept of Black Tie Symphony.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Wow. I almost forgot about that. Sitting here talking about all the good stuff. Wow. I honestly, it was a part of that journey that you just walked me through about the crossroad in my career and what am I going to do. Didn't necessarily want to be a gospel artist anymore. Didn't necessarily want to be a rock star. So what am I going to do? Just throw out music, and I have a great leader sitting in front of me, and you challenge us, to think, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to occupy? What else are we going to do next? Yeah. And so I've been studying, and I'm like, God gave me this idea of how to reimagine artists who are, whether they're aging or they just want to clean up their act, their show, and they want to have a bigger presentation, and able to make a film score out of their hit songs and add video content to it. So before they come on stage, you got a short, maybe a 1 or 2 minute video, and the symphony is playing to the narrative, and it's touching the hearts, and people are like, I've never seen this before. In Hollywood, you got the Hollywood Bowl, and it's kind of normal. John Williams, they'll have the orchestra play to Star Wars or, Lord of the Rings or something. But we're making short narratives to precede the performance. And last year, the King's Theater, we did everything except for the video aspect. But this year, we're going to be doing the video aspect. It's going to be amazing.
You're salivating.
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
man.
And we're talking about a tribute.
That's right.
To the
legendary
Clark sisters.
That's right. Clark
so
sisters.
It's bringing orchestra, symphony,
Yep.
and gospel together.
That's right.
In a sight and sound
Yes.
presentation. I thought the one that took place was amazing.
Yeah, it was.
And not only does Black Tie Symphony work,
Mm-hmm.
and literally black tie, we were all dressed
That's
up.
right, dressed up.
We were in our tuxedos.
Mm-hmm.
Not only is it a great concept, but it worked.
That's right.
The feedback that we got when we had a
Wow.
full house
Wow. Yes.
was absolutely amazing because for many it was the first time
Yeah.
they
Wow.
experienced it. We had Donald Lawrence there. We had Iyanla Van Zandt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Yolanda,
Yolanda
yeah,
Adams was
Darwin
there.
Hobbs.
Right,
Yes.
Darwin Hobbs was there. And it was just a great musical experience.
Yes.
So let me ask the question.
Okay.
Which score did you wish you had a part of and didn't?
You ready?
I'm ready.
The Wiz.
The Wiz?
The Wiz, yes. It's 19, before I was born probably, but The Wiz. Quincy Jones, Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, The Wiz.
Why?
I don't know if that's Quincy's greatest work, but he stretched out. And I got a chance to study who he studied, Nadia Bollinger, and who she studied. So to see his progression from big band and horns until listen, every time I hear that score, I'm so proud of him. You know what I'm saying? Because that had to be a huge leap for him as he was progressing, just to be able to, he stood up with everybody.
It's amazing when you are in a particular industry, you gain a very specific set of eyes and ears in your case that you see and hear other artists,
Yes.
other composers and producers. So you process it
Yes.
differently.
Oh, yeah.
than the civilian, me,
Okay.
would process
Okay.
it. And,
Thanks for reminding
I think
me.
it's great. I know, really, because you'll hear things that I would
Yeah.
never think to listen to.
Yes.
And that's true.
But Pastor, to know their stories, like Quincy Jones and Miles Davis, they weren't allowed to stay in the hotels with their, Caucasian counterparts. But they were able to play for everybody around the world. And so to get to the point where you're now in Hollywood and you're making movies, and that's mind-boggling to me. You know what I'm saying? That we've come that far. It's amazing.
So it's not just their gifts,
Right.
their talents.
Yeah,
it's their journey
It's their journey.
that becomes part of the inspiration for you
Yeah.
in what you're doing. Let's go back to Beyonce
Yeah.
real quick.
Okay.
What struck you about her?
Her professionalism. And the person who brought me on, his name is Damo. I have to say Damo. Amazing bass player, her musical director, along with a guy named Rance. And these guys, they really took her music and just put a 2023 at the time, polish on it before we went to Dubai. And they called me in to score it and sprinkle a little bit of the Middle Eastern sound on the orchestration. And so that, just to watch her trust us, the work process, I call it a military operation, because we had to do all this in like 12 days. I had to write 20 scores in 7 days and then be flown over to Dubai to work with the orchestra over there and pre-records. And the show was amazing. It was incredible.
So she's very disciplined, very professional.
Very disciplined, professional.
In what she does.
Yeah,
And
such a pro.
Look, it makes sense to be who she is,
Right.
to achieve what she has achieved.
Yes.
It requires organization, it requires discipline, order, and you get a chance to be there.
Sure.
Compare that real quick to doing a gospel.
Ooh, oh, ouch! I gotta be careful. My gospel friends gonna be like, "What you say?" I don't know. I can't just
You
say.
can be honest.
Well, I
It's
can't
okay.
say it's because the money, the budget with the Beyonce show is different from the money from a gospel show. So I have to look at that aspect.
That's fair.
So that type of balance. But still, I feel we can offer more originality to our gospel music. We don't have to settle for remaking hip hop beats, or remaking somebody else's music. We have more originality than what I've seen over the last few years.
Is that something you want to see change, and are you going to be a change agent?
I thought I stepped out of the gospel music business, but doing these symphonies are kind of bringing me a little bit back to my first love. So we'll see, But I hopefully there's another artist or musician that's coming up watching what I'm doing and deciding, okay, we're gonna do something different.
Closing thoughts. what would you like our audience to know about what you do, the field that you're in?
Okay. Wow. I would like to say there might be other people who are not in music or in our field, but there's a gentleman named Mr. Curtis Martin. He said this on one of his prayer calls about the comparison about an elephant. You probably heard it before. Some of us are having elephants. You know, some people are having little puppies. Some people are having little babies, cute. But some of us are having elephants, and it takes years to give birth to an elephant. And you don't give birth to 5 or 6 in one time. You know, and it's a process that's not fun. It could be slow, but when this elephant is here, it's going to do what it was a purpose to do, take up a lot of space, and do something really big. So, you know, it's something I really like that analogy. And there's a lot of people who they don't see when things are going to happen or seem like it's taking forever. But maybe your assignment is really huge and you cannot abort the mission. You know, maybe you got to study more. Maybe you got to learn more. You got to create more. So, you know, those of us going to stick in there and have our elephants, and then some are going to, no, I'll just have some puppies.
Oh, so you can choose.
You can choose.
Whether you have an elephant or a little cute puppy.
Cute, of 9 cute puppies, you know.
I get the metaphor for vision, for possibility.
Right.
And it's true. Some people don't want to put the work in. But it takes to birth a large vision. Yeah. So it's been great.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you so much for
sharing.
sharing.
Can I just say you're such an amazing gentleman. Thank you for how you handle us sheep. Thank you so much, man. Your guidance has ushered me. I got married under your ministry while I was here in New York. And then I took a leap of faith because of your confidence, your anointing. And now my wife and I, we live in California. And thank you so much, man. You always kept it real.
Hey, man. Yeah. You know how you thank me? By becoming the best version of yourself. Yeah. I'm proud of what you've been able to accomplish. Now your family that you're raising, and that's the biggest thank you that you give me, man.
I'll keep giving it.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. And thanks to our listeners. I'm thrilled you joined us today. If you like what you heard, you know the deal. Please subscribe and share. You can find us on all podcast platforms. We'll be back next time with another great conversation right here on the A.R. Bernard Show with your host, me, A.R. Bernard. Till then, God bless.